Good afternoon, everyone. It is World Book Day, and this is the day when we celebrate the power of books to stimulate our minds and stimulate our creativity. Today we celebrate World Book Day, and here at Quay Books we're really pleased to join with libraries and bookshops and different organisations across the world. We want to share ideas and knowledge and to highlight the power of books. This event is organised worldwide by UNESCO World Book Day. It started in 1995 and it's observed today by millions of people in over 100 countries. So we're really pleased in a small way to be playing our part here for World Book Day. And this afternoon we are delighted to be joined in honouring the day by the Limerick Writers Centre. The Limerick Writers Centre are running a number of very exciting literary events as part of the April is Poetry Month in Limerick programme. This event is actually number 14 in a series of 21 events taking place during April as part of April is Poetry Month. And I want to say as well that Dominic Taylor, the director of the Limerick Writers Centre, does so much in democratising poetry and making poetry accessible in the city. Hence, this event is taking place on the street in the public area as part of democratising the idea and making poetry accessible. We are especially delighted to be joined today by staff members and some students from the Spanish department of the University of Limerick. And I wish to thank the Spanish department of the University of Limerick, who gave a really supportive response when they were informed about this event. And it's great to see you here today. We appreciate you being here so much. And we're especially delighted to be joined by Marthe Giralt. Marthe is going to read for us, and by Marthe Forte Saez from the university. As both Marthes will know, the idea for the World Book Day has its roots in Catalonia. Roses, books and lovers. Barcelona and the other towns of Catalonia are always full of them on this day, the 23rd of April. For today is St Jordi's Day in Catalonia, and it is their most romantic day of the year. It is also called El Dia de los Amantes, which means Lovers' Day, and it is also called El Dia de la Rosa, the Day of the Rose. St Jordi's Day in Catalonia is where the tradition dictates that this is the day when a man gives a rose to a woman and a woman gives a book to a man. I've been told that that's not very politically correct these days, but it is the tradition, and it is from this phrase, it is from this idea that the phrase "a rose for love and a book forever" was born. On the first World Book Day in 1995, the head of Catalonia's Cultural Council said, "We are trying to spread this festivity of books and roses beyond our borders." And that is actually what has happened here today. Books and roses promote universal values, literacy, culture, peace, love, civility. And that is something that we all want to share. So let us celebrate books and reading and roses now with a number of readings. And I'm delighted, who will now come to the microphone, I'm delighted to welcome Marthe Giralt from the University of Limerick, and she's going to read a poem in Catalan and say a few words about it as well. Okay, Marthe, the microphone is yours.
Well done, Pat.
Voice of Quay Books, yeah.
Bring it down a little bit. So, I'm very happy to be here and read a poem in Catalan. As today is a big day in my culture, we celebrate everything that Pat was saying, love, literature, books. And the poem I'm going to read is by Miquel Martí Pol. He's a poet that died in 2003. And he has this book called Estimada Marta, which it means Dear Marta. And it's a book that they are all love poems. So the poem I choose is about somebody talking about a lost love. So it's sad, but really. So try to enjoy, for those who don't speak Catalan, maybe the musicality of the language and trying to get in that way. So, mira'm els ulls que cap fosca no vens. Vinc d'un estiu amb massa pluges, però duc fora a l'arrel de les ungles i no tinc cap sangraït pels racons de la pell del record. Per l'abril farà anys del desgavell, 7 anys, cosits amb una agulla d'or a la sorra del temps. Platges enllà perquè la mar els renti i el sol i el vent en facin diademes. Mira'm els ulls i oblida el cos feixuc, la cambra closa, els grans silencis. De tot això soc ric i de més coses, però no em tempta la fredor del vidre i sobrevisc aigües damunt del somni tenaç com sempre. Mira'm els ulls i pots llegir el retorn.
Thank you so much, Marta. And as you said, we have the musicality and we have the voice of Catalan, which is so important for us today. So thank you very much indeed. Our next poem is to be read by Una McMahon, and it's a poem by Pia Dead Barnett. She's a poet from Colombia in Latin America, and we really like to hear the Latin American voice. So Una McMahon now will read Biography of a Fearful Man.
When Pat asked me to read this poem about a father passing on fear to his daughter, my first thought was I could relate. My father was soon afraid of having been born, but he soon remembered also the duties of a man, and they taught him to pray, to save, to work. And soon my father was a good man, a real man, as my grandfather would say. Nevertheless, like a whining dog, muzzled and tied to a stake, fear persisted at the core of my father. Of my father, who as a boy had sad eyes, and as an old man, hands as solemn and as clean as silence at dawn, and always the air of a lonely man. So that when I was born, my father gave me all his disoriented heart knew how to give, and that included the loving gift of his fear. As an upright man, my father worked each morning, got round each night, and when he was able to, he brought in installments
Yeah, hold it for a child.
He brought in installments the little debt he always wished to have. He paid for it strictly, without any anxiety, year after year, like an upright man, my good old father.
Lovely.
Thank you, Una. Our next reader is Ruth O'Driscoll, and Ruth is going to read a poem by Francisco de Quevedo, one of the greatest poets of the Spanish Golden Age. He lived between the years 1580 and 1645, and at the time he deplored the wars that were ravaging Europe at the time, a little bit like today. Ruth O'Driscoll will now read this poem. Thank you, Ruth.
Psalm 17. I looked upon the walls of my native land, at one time strong, now crumbling and decayed, wearied by the unceasing race of time, that weakens virtue and makes valour fail. I went out to the fields and saw the sun, drinking up streams that had been freed from ice, and cattle that lamented gloomy peaks, using their shadows to rob day of its light. I entered my house, saw how it was staged, the wreckage of an ancient dwelling place, my staff more bent, and of its strength bereft. My sword, I felt, now overcome by age. No matter where I turned my eyes, I found nothing that did not make me think of death.
Lovely.
Thank you very much, Ruth, for reading that. Such trying circumstances. But I still think it's most important that we're in the public area. That's the whole purpose of what we're doing here. The next poem is being read by Dominic Taylor, and it's a poem by Patrick Galvin, who is a poet from Cork. And the reason we've chosen it is that Patrick Galvin spent some time in Spain, and when you hear this poem, you can see the kind of the surrealism and the magic realism, those ideas that he would have been influenced by when he was living in Spain. This is a poem written in English, The Mad Woman of Cork, but you can hear the Spanish in it, I think. Dominic Taylor.
Lovely, Dan.
Thanks, Pat. John Spillane does a great version of this with some music in the background, so I can't give the Cork accent for it today, unfortunately. Today is the feast of St Anne. Pray for me. I am the mad woman of Cork. Yesterday in Castle Street, I saw two goblins at my feet. I saw a horse without a head carrying the dead to the graveyard near Turner's Cross. I am the mad woman of Cork. No one talks to me. When I walk in the rain, the children throw stones at me. Old men persecute me, and women close their doors. When I die, believe me, they'll set me on fire. I am the mad woman of Cork. I have no sense. Sometimes, with an eagle in my brain, I can see a train crashing at the station. If I told people that, they'd choke me. Then, where would I be? I'm the mad woman of Cork. The people hate me. When Canon Murphy died, I wept on his grave. That was 25 years ago. When I saw him just now in Dunbar Street, he had clay in his teeth. He blessed me. I am the mad woman of Cork. The clergy pity me. I see death in the branches of a tree, dirt in the feathers of a bird. To see a child with one eye or a woman buried in ice is the worst thing and cannot be imagined. I am the mad woman of Cork. My mind fills me. I should like to be young, to dress up in silk and have 9 children. I'd have to have red lips, but I'm 80 years old. I have nothing but a small house with no windows. I am the mad woman of Cork. Go away from me. And if I die now, don't touch me. I want to sail in a long boat from here to Roach's Point. There I will anoint the sea with oil of alabaster. I am the mad woman of Cork, and today is the feast of St Anne. Feed me. Thank you.
Great.
Yeah, I really like that poem. In fact, I think there are about 5 Irish writers with a very strong European influence. There was our own Desmond O'Grady from here, spent a lot of time in Italy. There's Patrick Galvin, and there's John Liddy, who's reading for us today, as also touches of great European influences in his work. Now I'm going to call on Liam Murray, and he's going to read a poem by Salvador Espriu, who was a Spanish poet who wrote most of his works in Catalan, and he wrote poems with a high spiritual, moral and political resonance. And I just think this poem is really relevant. I think that what's happening in the world, I think this is a great poem, and we're delighted that it's being read today, and it's from the poet's most successful work, entitled La Paix de Brau. Liam Murray.
This poem's in English here, so you should all be able to follow this. Beautiful. Sometimes it is necessary and right for a man to die for a people, but whole people must never die for a single man. Remember this, Shepherd. Keep the bridge of dialogue secured and try to understand and love the different minds and tongues of all your children. Let the rain fall drop by drop upon the fields, and the air cross the ample fields like a soft benevolent hand. Let Shepherd live forever in order and in peace, in work and in difficult, hard-won liberty. Well done.
Thank you very much, Liam, for reading that so well. And he was just handed that poem a couple of minutes ago. Thank you very much, Liam. We appreciate that very much. I'm delighted to welcome John Liddy. John is going to pay tribute to a Limerick poet who died earlier this year, Mark Whelan. I worked with Mark Whelan about 30 years ago, and I knew him before I ever knew Dominic or John Liddy when he read for me when I was the librarian in County Mayo. So I think it's very fitting we pay tribute today to Mark Whelan. And John is also going to read a poem translated from a Ukrainian poem, which we'll be very pleased to hear. John this year published a really wonderful book, Areas of Consolation, and it sums up what this city is about, the personalities and the place names of the city, and he shares in it the histories and the experiences that you actually find in the shadows of this city. I think Areas of Consolation is a book for every Limerick person and every person who visits Limerick City. It's a marvellous book, and I'm really pleased that John is here. So, John Liddy, thank you.
I'll leave down the bread.
Grab the mic.
It's a book.
Yeah, I'd like to begin. I was walking around Limerick this morning, and I started to think about all the writers that we've had, and the writers to come, the young writers also. But particularly I was thinking of Michael Hogan, Kate O'Brien, Desmond O'Grady, Michael Hartnett. There are others, and those poets, Oscar Wilde, and Mark Whelan. And I sat on my own in a corner in Nancy Blake's, where Michael Curtin used to sit. And I decided I'd say a few words about Mark. Mark is a lovely man, a lovely poet, and a great worker on behalf of the arts in Limerick. He did some Trojan work, festivals, film, drama, and part of the White House gathering also. So I asked him to send me a poem for a magazine that came out from China, and I happened to be involved in that review. And I asked Mark to send a poem, and this is what he sent me. And I believe it was his last published poem. My Death. So much to be left behind when you leave. No more remembering towards what is past. No more promise of tomorrow. My death waits stunned by the cobwebbed tears in the mingling of unknown sorrows, flowing in the pipes of my veins. Bare and naked, I no longer matter to footprints left in the echo of crunching snow. There is a song to be sung, to break the windows of light, and to have nothing more to do with time. It rests at the bottom of a river, where above the lowest walk across bridges, their shadows blocking out the light of the sun. Those are Mark's final published words. And to follow, I was asked to contribute a poem to a group of poets around Europe who were writing poems on the Ukraine situation. And I happened to be in Soria when this poem more or less formed in my head. And Soria, as we know, a lot of us here know, is the land, in my opinion, of Machado, great Spanish poet who taught there and married a young woman, Leonor. And Machado was also an exile from his land and from his country, like so many of the Ukrainian people. And it's a sort of a quiet, subtle comment. It's certainly not a rage against war, but it makes its point. Thinking of you, in memory of the Ukrainian dead at the hands of Vladimir Putin, March 2022. We walk amongst thousands of names in a Sorian graveyard and stop to read Machado's words for Leonor. Wreaths from associations and government freshly laid on her tombstone. The poet, buried in Collier, speaks his lament with iris and rose picked from the plot by the Duero, where the poplars, unbent with lovers' names, shapes as dates, grow out of its waters, along with hill and verge, a world downside up, states of disarray, a silence before the kill, cities under siege, bodies stacking up, another exodus from far-off Ukraine, where life withers beside a buttercup as the river brings in a slanting rain, and we ascend the warm corridor named after the poet, our fingers in a love knot for the time to our food and wine, and coffee outdoors in the evening chill makes us almost forget the moment we are living in. But not so my dreams of a ghost with thousands of names and one. Carmela Marguerite.
What happened?
Really enjoyed that. Thank you.
Okay. Could I just say how much I enjoyed the poem by Mark Whelan? I say, I worked with Mark Whelan over 30 years ago. That's a wonderful final published book. Could I also say that I'm a huge fan of Machado, the poet referred to, and in fact I was hoping today that a poem by Machado would be read, but it didn't work out for me, and I'm so surprised and delighted that the Ukrainian poem references Machado. I think that's one. Thank you so much, John.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you for that. Our final reader today, and again, is from the University of Limerick, and we're so pleased that you accepted the invitation to read here. May I introduce Marte Forte Saez, who is going to read a poem for us in Spanish, but we'll introduce it with a few words and give it a bit of background. Yeah. Okay, Marte.
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me to this event. I'm very happy to be here with all of you. And well, I've chosen a poem written by Pablo Neruda. I think everyone knows this writer. I chose this poem because it talks about love, but more modern love. Then what Pablo Neruda explained is like, if you love me, I love you back. But if you don't love me, I'll go away and find another love. I think it really reflects what modern society is, no? And maybe like young people, what they feel like they are really loved, but if they don't get that love back, they find another love soon, you know. Then it's interesting that Pablo Neruda was writing about that before many years ago. Then, well, I'm going to read this poem that is in Spanish. Quiero que sepas una cosa, tú sabes cómo es esto. Si miro la luna de cristal, la rama roja del lento otoño en mi ventana, si toco junto al fuego la impalpable ceniza o el arrugado cuerpo de la leña, todo me lleva a ti, como si todo lo que existe, aromas, luz, metales, fueran pequeños barcos que navegan hacia las islas tuyas que me aguardan. Ahora bien, si poco a poco dejas de quererme, dejaré de quererte poco a poco. Si de pronto me olvidas, no me busques, que ya te habré olvidado. Si consideras largo y loco el viento de banderas que pasa por mi vida y te decides a dejarle a la orilla del corazón en que tengo raíces, piensa que en ese día, a esa hora, levantaré los brazos y saldrán mis raíces a buscar otra tierra. Pero si cada día, cada hora, sientes que a mí estás destinada, con dulzura implacable, si cada día sube una flor a tus labios a buscarme, ay amor mío, ay mía, en mí todo ese fuego se repite, en mí nada se apaga ni se olvida. Mi amor se nutre de tu amor, amada, y mientras vivas estará en tus brazos sin salir de los míos.
Muy bien.
Thank you, muchas gracias.
Enhorabuena.
Thank you, sorry, thanks.
Okay, I think we've had all our readers. Could I just say that I'm a big fan also of Pablo Neruda, and we have his book here, 20 Love Poems and a Song of Despair. We're delighted to have that in the shop. May I thank all the readers for reading here today in the most trying of circumstances. You were all so brave, and I admire you so much. And I think that's what people who like poetry do. They read circumstances because they believe in poetry. And I'm so pleased that for your participation here today. I would like to thank Marie Goff, who's my partner in the business, to keep the show on the road while this is going on, and also to our staff member Ruth O'Driscoll. I want to say a big thank you to Ruth as well. And I want to thank again the Limerick Writers Centre. April is Poetry Month, and the University of Limerick. We thank you so much for getting involved here today. Before we conclude, we might all stand with a rose in our hands for a photograph just in the front of the shop.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You watched some of this?
descent here, just along here, John.
Yeah, along that way, yeah.
Along here, yeah.
Will you stand in?
Good celebration.
Yeah. Will you stand in? No. You.
Which goes to both sides.
Shoulder to shoulder.
Go ahead. Everyone is opposed to hands.
Right, Pat, you go between. Yeah, there, yeah.
Okay.
Come closer. Marie, will you just go in a bit? A bit more. Yeah, okay. Okay.
Will I sit a bit?
Will you take a picture if I go in there?
Will I go in? Take it down.
You take one of me in there.
Possible.
Here, just press the button. I want to go in. Press that there. Photo. It says photo, right?
Okay, you walk
And
away.
get us all in now.
Abel?
Take one of the
Yeah, that's fine.
Fine.